our role was. I mean, our role was to expose the band to a bigger audience. And the thing is, they were so good on stage that as soon as anybody saw them, they became a fan, came back the next time the band came into town, and brought their friends. Our job was to accelerate that process and to get more people to be interested in coming to see them. And it was difficult to do that. You know, what we needed to do was to get radio play and newspaper and magazine coverage. It was difficult to do that without a record out. Because the record was the marketing tool for the artist's career. And the record company was the marketing company for the artist's career. So when 10 years after it got popular enough, we were able to make a deal for them with Decca Records. Decca were a major record company in England, one of the three biggest record companies in England. And we were thrilled. Decca Records, they were a huge record company. They were the Rolling Stones record company. They would know everything that we didn't know. Well, we were wrong. They didn't know anything. They didn't understand 10 years after. They didn't understand the Rolling Stones. They were still mired in the past of the pre-packaged pop. And the only reason they signed the Rolling Stones was because they were embarrassed at having turned down the Beatles. And the only reason the Rolling Stones were successful was because the Stones manager, Andrew Oldham, told them what to do, because they had no idea. Now, we didn't know anything about this. So when 10 years after this record came out, it was a fiasco. We recovered from it. We were a great performing group. We were able to get them tours of the US. And the turning point for 10 years after was a festival. In 1969, they played the Woodstock Festival. The Woodstock Festival was made into a movie, and Alvin and Lee, 10 years after, were one of the stars of the movie, and that launched their career to the next level. So when it came to Jethro Tull, we decided that we couldn't make the same mistake again. In fact, I said to Chris, you know, we couldn't have done a worse job ourselves for 10 years after than Decca Records did. So why don't we give it a try? Let's do it ourselves with Jethro Tull. Let's form our own record company. So I took Jethro Tull into the studio. I'd never been in a recording studio before. Found an inexpensive studio with a good engineer. And I produced the first Jethro Tull album. Cost £500. And in the meantime, I've met a man called Chris Blackwood, who had a scrappy little independent label with his own distribution called Island Records. And I made a deal with Chris to distribute the Chrysalis label in the UK. The first Jethro Tull album came out on the Chrysalis label, and between us, we knew what to do, and it went top 10 in the UK, first week of release, and of course generated radio play, newspaper, magazine coverage, and took Jethro Tull's career forward. And we began to get offers of tours from Europe and the States, and at that point I decided it was important for me to start going on the road with the band, because I recognized that each gig that they played was a marketing opportunity. And I needed to be there to ensure that those marketing opportunities were fully taken advantage of, and also to make sure that the band had nothing to worry about apart from getting on the stage and doing their show. Now, a major element, a major force in developing Jethro Tull's career were festivals. Now, festivals, because the modern rock music festival was born in the late 60s and early 70s. And at the time, there were a lot of bands who were well known, but still developing and very reasonably priced. So what a festival organizer at the time did, basically, he built a stage in the middle of a field, booked a bunch of these bands, and sold tickets. And they were amazed at how many tickets they could sell. They were selling 50 to 100,000 tickets for those festivals. Of course, this was fantastic for us, because we were playing in clubs and ballrooms and small theatres. And to get on a stage and hit 50 to 100,000 people on one night was incredible exposure when we were trying to develop the artist's career. So we got ourselves on as many of these festivals as we could. It didn't matter what the fee was, that wasn't important. It was the exposure that was important. And the exposure helped develop their careers. Those festivals at those days weren't always easy going. The organisers of those festivals didn't have any experience in handling events of this size, had no expertise in dealing with security and so on. So there were some issues. In 1969, when Woodstock was held, it was a lot easier for the organisers, because there was a lot of peace and love around. And the audiences were sort of well behaved, or they're mostly completely stoned, so they were well behaved. By the time we got to 1970, things were a little different. And in 1970, I went with Jethro Tull and we played a festival in England called the Isle of Wight Festival. And this was a huge event. The most amazing list of artists who were playing. You can't see it here clearly, but I mean, everybody who was anybody was there. Jimi Hendrix, The Doors, The Who, Joni Mitchell, all the top English bands. And it was a huge event. There were 600,000 people in a field in the middle of the English countryside. And as I say, there wasn't a lot of love and peace at that. There was a lot of hate and anger. There was a sort of fascist element that had imported itself from Europe, who were preaching the idea that festivals were conspiracies of the establishment and that music should be free. And it was held over several days, finishing on Sunday night. And by Saturday night, the kids in the audience, they were tired. Basically, at the end of the show on Saturday night, they all climbed into their sleeping bags and went to sleep in the arena. And the following morning, Sunday morning, they were still there. So the organisers got on the stage and said, now, listen folks, this is what's going to have to happen. You guys are all going to get up, leave the arena, and then come back in and pay your Sunday money. So the audience said, we don't think so. We're here and we're staying. So the organisers realized they had a financial fiasco on their hands. They needed the money for the Sunday entrance and they weren't going to get it. So they got desperate in trying to get the audience to leave. And I was there on 8 o'clock on Sunday morning with Jethro Tull. We'd gone there to do a sound check. And when people got on the microphone and started blaming the artists for what was going on, I had to step in.
The artists have only been paid in part. The artists need to be paid in cash or they will not perform. If you do not have a ticket, then you must leave the arena. You may sit on the hill. Now this is
Why come out to the artist? Why don't the artist? 100 expenses apart from the artist. we're holding you up for prayer. I've got 1,000 different things to thank for. That's the thing.